All righty. Hello, Diane.
Good morning. Good to see you. Good to have you back.
Yes. Baruch Hashem. Yes,
Baruch Hashem.
we're back. Baruch atah Adonai le'olam shahakol Baruch.
Amen.
Oh, l'chaim, l'chaim. Welcome, folks. Good to go. Good to come back. But it's always better to come back.
To return.
Always to return, yes. Right. Okay. So with David's coffee in hand and a new Hasidic mimer in hand, l'chaim. L'chaim. So we are within Shloishim Yoim, within 30 days to Yud Shvat. Yud Shvat, 1950, the previous Rebbe passed away, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, and our Rebbe became Rebbe. So this year marks 75 years of the Rebbe's leadership, and the Rebbe, so to speak, for lack of a better word, celebrated by making a Farbrengen, of course. The first time he made a Farbrengen with a Hasidic discourse, with a mimer, which is what we do in the mornings, learn a mimer, Hasidic discourse. And the name of the discourse for the 40-some years that the Rebbe said Maimorim, discourses for Yud Shvat, it's called Basi Lagani. I've come to my garden. We do every year a discourse based on Basi Lagani, that God has come to his garden. This world, right, is God's garden. The world's not a jungle. It's a garden, and particularly it's God's garden. So that's the verse that it's based on. There are 20 chapters to the mimer. The original one that the previous Rebbe gave out actually was the day he passed away, Yud Shvat. This 10th of Shvat was on Shabbos, and it was printed for that Shabbos, a Hasidic discourse, and it had 20 chapters to it. So the Rebbe every year took a different chapter and expounded on that chapter. So in the year 1965 and in the year 1985, right, 20 years later, chapter 15, that I've expounded upon. Okay. So what I'm going to do, at least to begin with, today is we're going to go through chapter 15 from the previous Rebbe's discourse, and then the Rebbe's teachings based on that. Okay, is that, we're good? All right, wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. All right. Welcome. So it's a bit Kabbalistic. It's a bit somewhat technical, if you will. But right. We're old hat at this stuff now, right? So, or Ein Sof, which means the infinite light of God, right? Infinite light of God. It, it shines, if you will, for lack of a better term, right? Better way to describe, because we call it or, we call it light. Light shines, right? So, it shines below. Huh?
Emanates?
No,
Okay.
not emanation. It's beyond emanation.
Far away.
Right. The infinite light of God. Right. It spreads, it expands to the lowest of the low and reveals itself um, beyond. So just as the Or Sof, the infinite light of God, is above, beyond any end. There's no end to it, right? Because it's infinite light. The light that we are aware of the sun is a finite light. It only reaches so far, right? Or any other form of light only reaches so far. But this is God's light of God, right? Um, 1 second. Yeah, right. So it's above and beyond. Then through tzimtzum, which means a contraction.
Infinite light is here before contraction or through
Yeah.
contraction?
Oh, the infinite light is beyond contraction, right? Then then God contracts on the Ein Sof light, on the infinite light, right? It's hidden, this light, and it becomes now enveloped, if you will. Right? This is all metaphorical, if you remember, in the core essence of God. In other words, before Tzimtzum, which means contracting the light, right? The light is revealed. This is before any emanation. We're talking before emanate, right? We're talking about emanation means already some form of some kind of definition of something, right? That emanates from the emanator, from God, right? So this light was simple and filled all of existence. Existence then was not existence as we know it, because it's before there's a thing called existence. Okay.
Creation.
Before creation is already, that's after emanation, right? There's nothing. But we're using human terms because we're human and therefore we can only speak in human terms. Okay. The only thing that was felt was the simplicity of the Ein Sof. But there was no sense of that there is something, right?
Mm.
There isn't, there is a reality to something, but it's only a reflection of the infinite of God. No, there is no nothing. All there is the only thing that was sensed, felt. There wasn't someone to feel, remember, or a thing to feel. Okay, it's important. Was just a revelation of the Orient Safe without end. Right.
Now sense.
Because that's before Tzimtzum, right?
Yeah.
We live, I live, and you live, and we all live after Tzimtzum, after the contraction of the infinite light, right? And we feel a separateness, but we're not there. We're far from there yet, right? There's no me, there's no you in this moment. Now, it's brought down that just as God has the power to be infinite,
Mm.
also he has the power to be finite. Okay? Because if you say otherwise, that God has the power of infinity, and he doesn't have the power of finitude, what are you doing? You're taking away from his completion. Oh, God has to be infinite. Well, if he has to be infinite, that means, by definition, there's something lacking. He's not finite,
Okay,
right?
yes.
So he has to have the power of both. Because after all, he is the completion and the perfection of everything. Now, let's explain this further. The completion of the Ein Sof, then therefore, meaning, when we speak about God, Ein Sof, he's without limit, right? It means to say that that includes his being infinite and finite, right? Now, before the Tzimtzum, before the contraction of the Ein Sof, all there was the revelation of the infinite without boundaries, that had no boundaries, right? The infinite without boundaries. So let's call Or Ein Sof right now the word. I'm going to call it Or Ein Sof. Literally means light without end, right? That's what it literally means. Okay. So what was revealed, I remember revealed, like that's not, we're not there to experience the revelation of this at this point, right? But there was a revelation of the infinite, and the power of the finitude of God was hidden, right? In other words, if you were there to feel something, which we weren't, all you would feel is the infinite of the Ein Sof.
Mm. Awesome.
The finitude of the Ein Sof was not felt, which means that there's a something, because finitude means a something, right? Because it's got boundaries. If it got boundaries, it's got definition. It's got definition, so it's a something that you're right. So, um, So that was not sensed, not felt. Again, there was no one there feeling this, right? If you will. Now, what happened? That's before Tzimtzum, before the contraction. The contraction on the infinite light what happened was is that the infinite light was hidden, and what was sensed, if you will, what was sensed is that there's a something, and the infinite was not sensed and felt. Even though, what does it mean it wasn't sensed? It doesn't mean that God removed himself. He's not there, right? Because after all, it says God does fill heavens and earth, right? So what does it mean? What do you mean the infinite of God was not sensed? It means only from our perspective, right? From our perspective, the tzimtzum, the contraction, contracted the infinite light of God, that now we don't sense that infinite. And what we do feel and sense is finitude. But that's only from our perspective, that the infinite light is being hidden. But from God's perspective, it's shining the same way it was before there's tzimtzum. There's no distinction. As we say every day in our prayers, that you are, before you created the world, you're the same God that after you created the world, equal. No distinction. Not, oh, God created the world and now, oh, look at that. There's David over there. Look at that. There's, Ronnie over there. There's a cup of coffee over here. Chaim. All of a sudden, there's a something. No. It's a metaphor for this. For a great scholar to give over to the student, which a true scholar, a true sage, wants that the student should have the same knowledge, power, understanding as he does, right? That's a Torah sage. And I don't think a professor necessarily wants to lose his job to all of his students because now he taught them and they know everything he knows. I won't have a job left. Right. But real, right? But in order for that great sage to be able to teach that the student should have what he has to put aside his knowledge, the way he has it in his head, and contract upon it in order to give it over to the student little by little in order that they should grow and become like the sage. When the sage does that, did he lose that knowledge? No, he just set it aside. It's just not shining in his head right now. What shining is in his head is the limited, piecemeal teachings that he's giving to the student to help that student to go from level to level. Anyway, we're in the middle. We began, thank God. Began the new discourse. We'll continue it, God willing. We'll see you soon by Chumash Rashi. Thank you,
Thank you, Rabbi.
folks. Good to see everybody back. I mean, good to see that everybody's, yes.